Hello, and welcome back to Dev Game Club, weekly podcast in which two veteran game developers look at games from the past to discuss their relevance and impact today. I'm Brett Duville, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, a man whom dusty maps and rumors of amazing treasures have led here under the desert.
Tim Longo.
Yeah, I believe that is from Yang's journal for the tutorial or something. So little Spelunky taste there in the there's not a lot of text in this game. I mean, I guess technically if you go and read the little things about every creature and all of that thing, there's a fair amount of text, but not in the normal play. So hard to find things.
But it has a good, I mean, it does have the tone, I feel like, and the style of it, and there's still a lot of storytelling in the game in a way, but it's not typical,
especially when you die on like the cusp of the next section of levels. So every 4 levels, it'll sort of tease you with like, oh, I heard the sounds of whatever below. It's like, so know that it's about to change. Like if you die on 1-4, you've already seen the jungle, so it's gonna it like teases that there's a jungle.
Wow, that's great.
And it'll say, oh, and that'll be in the sort of death panel. It'll say, if only the end of the mines was in sight. And I think sometimes even when you go into levels, my recollection is it will also say like, I hear. I hear something or whatever.
In the recap screen, when you succeed, the recap screen blends into the next. You know what I mean? Like when it's giving you your score and stuff, which was a nice detail
at the end as well.
I didn't see that the first time, but it's nice to see. Like, okay, that feels like a payoff. It's like, okay, I'm transitioning into the next.
Plus, you
section.
meet the tunnel man or whatever. Which, I accidentally give stuff sometimes because, I mean, he only shows up the once for each transition. So, and I think one of the things he asks for, you'd like have to know you were going to give it to him because normally you wouldn't be carrying that far. Which would be the golden key, if you've seen the golden key. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I've seen a golden key or a few golden keys. Is there just the one?
There is just the one. You've probably seen it multiple times. It always appears somewhere in 1-1 through 1-4. Have
1-3? Oh, it's only in the mines.
I mean, it's only in the mines, and it doesn't appear in open up. It doesn't appear in 1-1. Actually, it only appears 1-2 to 1-4. And it's to open up that chest and get the. I don't know if it's called the Wadget Eye, which is the name of a games company. I even this game that I've played 1,000 hours of, I don't really care about what things are called. But anyway, you get the eye. And what do you think the eye does?
Oh, I never opened one, so I didn't know.
Oh, okay. So you get this eye.
No, I was like, no, I cannot be bothered with this key. I got to get out of here. So
it's part of the golden path.
Oh, it is.
Yes.
Okay, that's a good clue.
You should try to do it, and then
But I would have no idea what to do with it then.
Well, I know, and that's why I'm just gonna like give you a little.
That's fine. That's fine.
A little discussion of a golden
path. If I get that far, it'll be a while. So
well. So, and I didn't figure this stuff out on myself. I figured out pieces of it, but not the whole thing until I watched, as I mentioned last time, Andy Nealon playing. But anyway, so for folks at home who haven't played Spelunky, there is in addition to the, the shifting sands of the walls and everything being different every time you play roguelite stuff, there is, however, every time you play a golden path of series of events that you need to trigger, objects you need to get in order to get to the 5th, quote unquote, hidden or secret level or series of levels, biome, which is the hell levels. So the game properly, you can call it a day if you've beat Olmec. But if you want to really beat the game, you have to beat Olmec in a certain way, having followed this golden path, and then go through the hell levels and beat a second boss called Emperor Yama, I believe, who's at the very bottom in the 20th level, whatever that is, 5-4, I guess. So yeah, it's a whole thing. And it starts with the key and the chest. The thing that you get, and there is one step of it in each biome. So that's kind of all I'll say.
Okay.
It's like,
yeah, that's good.
Having done that, there's the potential to find something in the jungle area.
Mm-hmm.
Having done that, that'll give you access to a place which will allow you to do something in the ice caves. And then once you've been in the ice caves and done that thing, that'll allow you to pick up a thing in the ruins, which is the last level, before, or last biome before Olmec, and then Hell. And then I guess there is no, that you just need to get to Hell. Like there is a special thing you can pick up in Hell, but it's not required. It's just useful. So, because Hell is very dangerous, and anything that might help is good to good to have there. The ice caves are the worst. I think of all the levels.
I assume there's sliding in there.
There is sliding unless you have the spiky boots. So
there's sliding on there's ice. A double purpose for those.
There's a double purpose for those, and the other thing about that is that it has a bottomless pit. So if you jump and you can't see what's below you, or you run off an edge accidentally, like you could just fall forever. And that's how your game ends. So yeah, it's quite yep. So let's talk a little bit about your quote unquote progress since last time, because I remember being in this early state. In fact, the first time I was in this early state, I bounced off of it. And actually, I did come back to it before I even watched a lot of videos. I did get hooked on it eventually. I had it on the Vita. I don't remember, but at some point it just clicked, and I was like, oh man, actually I love this game. Like I didn't get it at first. I might have heard people talk about it on a podcast, so I was like, oh, like this is the whole point.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't get that. I just didn't I didn't have a lot of rogue light exposure at that point. I mean, this is whatever, more than a decade ago. And I still don't play a ton of them, but I've probably played half of the ones that I've played for the cast. So just to give you and there's elements of roguelites in a lot of games, so I don't know, but but I played Rogue and Rogue Legacy 2 for the cast. I think I played a little of Rogue, the original Rogue Legacy, and got okay far in that. And then what else? Well, Spelunky, of course. Then I'm like, well, and there's probably others I've played. I mean, there's a lot of run-based games I've played, but they aren't really roguelites, So, I wouldn't consider Dark Souls anything like Rogue. It's its own run-based.
No. It's its own. Yeah, it's its own thing. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But anyway, I tried it again. I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. And then I played it a ton on my Vita, and then my Vita died, so I started playing on the PC. But you were in that part of the journey where I was for a long time.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to think, would I have already bounced off of it like you're talking about at this point if it were not for the cast?
I'm not necessarily saying that you would have bounced off of it.
No.
I was in this difficulty.
Yeah. No, I'm more asking myself that question as an exercise.
Yeah.
To kind of interrogate how I feel about it. But yeah, I don't think I would. I think it is actually a segue to one of the topics I wanted to talk about, in that my sessions since the last episode have been all, so just for transparency, I have actually not made it out of the jungle yet, which is sad, but also I don't feel like I'm very good at the game, which maybe is kind of goes without saying. I don't know. This is a weird game.
I mean, me either. So
yeah, exactly. So it's like you have two extremes here. It's like in the same answer. So there's that. So, but the segue to the topic is that, is practice, and I think in pre-show I called it rigor. But practicing or just like doing reps, like, exercising or something, reminds me of. And I realized through that process that I think I enjoy the game much more if I play it in short bursts um, exercise and practice.
Right.
And I think we'll talk about maybe the dailies some other time, but it's an interesting concept that I think reinforces and reflects, like you said, what the game is. And I think the last few sessions I've had since the podcast have been all practice. And I've taken some of the things you said on last episode to heart. It's, sort of like, do I want to skip? And if I am kind of going through the one, through the mines, what am I doing with that time to prepare myself for the jungle? And the sort of like, I guess you could call it a little bit of a strategy, but it's not really a strategy. It's more of just like, trying to set yourself up for success if you can.
Yeah.
Even though you still could die anytime.
Right.
But it's just, it's as we talked about with souls or whatever, it's like I'm in the knowledge phase. And I know you're going to say even over 1,200 hours, you're still in the knowledge phase too, maybe, but you're well beyond me. Right. And so I am kind of just embracing and loving that. I know, to what you said earlier in your early days of the game, it's very much like the revelation of, oh, that's what this is. Okay, now I get what this is. Now I need to embrace what it is. And then I need to slowly gain knowledge, because, and I'll talk about this later about why it is of any platformer I've played, which again, as people know, I'm not a platforming games fan. This is a platforming game that I think I would embrace, though, because of the nature of what it is. And, with the Mario, there's always this tension for almost all of them for me of, okay, here's a discrete level that you have to get really good at. And the designers wanted you to play this level. And yes, there's definitely some systemic aspects to sometimes those games, like pogoing or whatever, right? That maybe weren't intentionally there for the challenge. So you can kind of use that to your exploit that to your advantage. But generally, it's like you're going to play this level in a few different ways, and it's always the same. And I think for this game, because of the nature of it, I feel less bad about failing, and I feel less personally, I feel like I punish myself less. And that's one of the reasons I don't play platformers, is because I get really hard on myself, of like, you should be better than this, you jerk, and with Spelunky.
Well, I mean, I would say you're well on your way to Spelunky mastery, young grasshopper. You've embraced, like, no, it's okay to fail. Just fail, laugh, and move on. Which is another thing I like about it. A lot of games where I fail, I'm annoyed, because I feel like, either, it is that, like, I feel like, why can't I just, a million people have done this before, why can't I just get good at it? To this one where it's like, oh no, failure is the process. Like, that's
even the best player could fail in the way I just failed.
Exactly. Like I said, I would watch Andy Nealon play, and he's very good. He's played tons and tons of hours of Spelunky, and then, he'd have a day where he'd just die on the second level of the mines by just, like, literally just walking straight off a ledge onto some spikes, like, and just just say, well, I guess I died today. I guess we're done. And then sometimes he'd die on the daily, and then maybe he'd try some of the weird, achievements or whatever. I remember he would do if he died in the first couple minutes, but, or play something else he was playing at the time. But yeah, so, I think that is absolutely a big thing. The other thing I would recommend, honestly, is just to sort of leverage how we learn as human beings, which is to say we sleep. And it would be better to play half an hour a day, and sleep, than trying to play, whatever, 3.5 hours at once on a Sunday or something like that, even though, that may or may not, which I think that fits your schedule. But I think that is another reason why the daily is really good. I actually started progressing faster once I started actually playing less, but just always playing the daily.
Yeah.
And I mean, granted, at that point, I was getting deeper pretty often, so it was, I wasn't frequently dying in the mines. I still don't often die in the mines. It happens, but not often. And then, so I was getting to like the ice caves, most of the time, and sometimes down into the next section as well. And that, was like, okay, so now each run I'm actually taking 20 to 30 minutes to play anyway. And so why, because 12 levels times 2.5 is 30 minutes, right? So if you use the whole 2.5 minutes before the ghost appears, normally you don't spend all of that time on every level. But if you are really trying to find every spot and, and do the golden path and all of that stuff, you are spending, at least a couple minutes, towards a couple minutes on every level. So yeah, it ends up being like, oh, that's a perfect bite-sized thing to do, every day. And, I think I did, I've definitely had periods where I'm like, you know what, I'm going to play for 3 hours because I'm just enjoying playing Spelunky today. But that is really rare for me these days. It's how I played a lot on the Vita, but it's not how I've really ever played on the PC.
Yeah, and it was a conclusion I came to as well. And we've talked about this before for playing the games for the podcast, and I usually have limited time, and so I do tend to cram. And also because my memory's so bad, I try to play as close to recording as I can, so it's fresh.
Yeah.
So sort of like my window ends up being sort of always the same, but in this, I just don't think I will enjoy the game as much, and B, I don't think it's not like there's a right or wrong way to play, but I think it will benefit from that concept of just like, the rigor of it, of just exercising every day kind of things. Like, well, if you exercise, it's not about as the science goes, it's not about going hard or fast, it's about consistency.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that when you die, like anything where you fail, you can actually just examine it. And I did this a bit back when I started, mostly I think when I started playing on the PC, where I just say, okay, why did I die that time? What did I not do? And it's like, oh, I didn't look down before I went from one level to another in the mines. Like, and you always look down. Like, there's also a rule amongst people who played it every day back in the day, which is like always be carrying, which means like as soon as you can pick up something that you can carry, a pot or a stone or a skull, and make sure you're carrying that all the time, because or a damsel, or the damn dude or the damn dog. I don't know if that's what they're really called, but that's what I think of them as. And that'll give you a means to deal with a tiki trap. And then as soon as you've dealt with it, or not a tiki trap, an arrow trap. So as soon as you've dealt with an arrow trap, too. Yes. Yeah. As soon as you've dealt with that arrow trap, okay, now make sure you pick something else again, up again. If it was a skull or a pot, those are gone. So now you have to find something else. But if it's a rock, those rocks are great because they last forever. But you can even just use the arrow that was shot out as well. So it's like there's a lot, and arrows have other uses. So yeah, a lot of things you can do with an arrow. And no, that's like,
well, I started. No, that was actually going to be one of my examples on the depth of the systemic nature of the game that I was going to bring up. I was going to use the arrow because that was definitely one of the, not to segue to that yet, but
we can.
Well, yeah. Before that, well, just the concept of learning a lesson with every death, and actually just kind of like, not obviously being overly academic about it, but taking a moment to think about it is a good point. Like always looking down is one of those ones that I maybe learned the hard way too many times, but it is something that that you can see everyone really learning, and
it becomes essential in the ruins because of certain enemy types there as well. So
yeah. Well, it's
always a good idea, but but the further you go, it's like, no, you really need to know what you're heading into all the time.
Well, and it's giving him the benefit of the doubt about like how much he knew he was doing with this game, but it is really a revelatory concept to turn such a tried and true genre, on its head by not just making it a roguelike, but also making it so procedural, with obviously tuning and balancing to that. Because and it's really interesting, again, just to call it back to some of the other things I'm playing right now, and inadvertently comparing it to, with no planning involved at all. But the fact that I'm almost done with Dark Souls 2, I'm in the boss rush area at the end, and which is grueling, but Outer Wilds as well, because I talked about this on the stream a couple of times when I play Outer Wilds, which is a very obvious comment because of the structure of that game. Like embracing death, and that is also a learning game. Now, it's not a learning really on mechanics and systems as much as it is about the story and the objectives and things, what you're trying to do, the mystery. But I don't feel bad about dying there either. It's like, oh yeah, I probably could have done that better, but it's like, what are you going to do? Supernova.
Yeah.
It's like, they've made, and in Dark Souls, the same thing, right? They've made death such an integral part of learning the game and gaining knowledge for the game that you don't feel bad. And with this game, because it's run based, and we've talked about like those other games are not the same thing, but this concept of like, I love this concept with this game and with the games similar ones that I'm mentioning, of like this concept of this could be the run, where it's like, okay, I died. Like, I'm going to go in, did this with Hollow Knight a lot, right? And that's a perfect example too of another genre merging that it was like, okay, I'm probably going to die, but this could be the run. So you always go in thinking, I'm not there with Spelunky yet. Like, I'm going to finish to the boss or anything, but I make small goals for myself. Like, this could be the run where I get through the jungle,
Right.
because you just never know, and you just do your best. And that is, games that don't feel like that being a punishment, I think, are very special and very hard to do, where it doesn't feel like the game is punishing you for not making that run.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, I think if I had any sort of criticism of the Souls games, it's that. I mean, you want to defeat it because you do feel like it's being fair in a sense, right? It's not pulling out some new trick on you most of the time. I mean, certain creatures might have attacks you don't see, until you've done it a few
once
times.
You know all this,
but once you know all the kind of particulars, you kind of feel that way, But even in those, like, and that's where those are the games where I do get frustrated. We were talking in pre-show about Remnant 2, which is a game I've been really enjoying, but I've now gotten to a boss that is just, it's a very weird sort of level-based boss, and it is, I will do it. Like, I know that I could persist to do it, but it's also just like, I do it a couple times, now I'm just at a point where it's like, I basically tried a few times in the morning, and if I fail, I fail. If I feel like I've actually made real progress, I might try a few additional times. But I've been that way for like, I don't know, 6 days or something like that, where I'm like, yeah, I'm much better than I was when I started this, when I was like, I'll never beat this. I almost put it down for good. I was like, I tried a whole bunch of times. I was like, I will never beat this. And now I'm like, it's like being on that last sliver of health with a boss where you're like, okay, so you're telling me it's possible.
Exactly. The number of bosses said, the number of bosses of like, I'll never beat this, right? That we've said that. That gamers have said that, and of course From has made their bread and butter on that concept. But so you're telling me it's possible. I'm the same way. I put it down for maybe a month or two at this point, but I'm at the same place with the Radiance, the last true ending boss for Hollow Knight. I still haven't beaten that, but it is very much like, I'll play a little bit, learn something, chip away.
Just keep your skills sharp enough. That's another thing. You don't want to give it up for too long,
right?
Because then it's like starting over, which is what it would be like for me. I mean, I haven't played Hollow Knight in, I don't know.
Well, in that case, right? That's too long. But that's a good example too, because any boss rush section, like in that game, which I guess is similar for Spelunky because it's the levels are kind of the challenge, right? Like what
Right,
this
right.
version of the level, but you have to fight to do the true ending. You have to fight the Hollow Knight and defeat him to get to the Radiance. And I remember meeting the Hollow Knight for the first time, in the old days, and like, oh, I'll never beat the Hollow Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Never. This is too hard. And then now I'm doing it, like with ease because I'm trying to get to the next boss,
Right, right.
because it's like, okay, the Hollow Knight is nothing compared to this. So um, that learning curve for players is so special. Now those are all pattern based though, right? So once you, like you
Right.
said, like Souls, like those games, those are still pattern based. And the thing with Spelunky, man, it's just
Yeah.
on a different. It's on a different level.
Yeah.
Different. It's in a different like galaxy. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just like
Yeah.
this isn't that really. There's
It's there are patterns, but they are 3-second patterns, and you have to pick from a huge array of them.
yeah, no, it's like
It's not like
like
there's
chaos
one
theory.
pattern that goes for 3 seconds. It's like, no, there's an infinite number of 3-second patterns
Yeah,
that you've
yeah.
learned,
It's not. Yeah.
or not obviously infinite, but whatever. It's a very large number of patterns, and a lot of them have similarities. So like there are basic skills and like knowing how far you can jump
There
and
are rules. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so you have those rules that kind of help you with those, each individual 3 seconds of play that you're going to make a decision in, but in general, like, it's yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's it's sort of like learning to play chess in a way. I mean, not obviously the physical
Yeah.
thing,
No, I
but
think it's a good. I get you.
yeah, but like you see a lot of board positions when you're learning to play chess, and like there's a part, to get really good at chess involves seeing a lot of board positions, like, and you kind of knowing like what your goal should be, like how you got there, and like why you never want to get there and that way again, like, or whatever. It's like you have to go through that process many, many times, either by playing classic games or just playing in matches yourself, um, in order to attain those skills, which are again they're sort of pattern recognition. And like chess, where a person who's just starting to play chess, the way they look at the board and remember the board is very different from somebody who's played hundreds or thousands of
Mm.
hours, right? Is like, you know I used to be able to keep a whole, if I played a game, you do it in notation while you're playing in a tournament, but like both myself and my teacher was like, after you played a game, you're like, okay, well, what should I have done in this position? And it's like you take position 48 from the game you just played, and you just lay it out like, this is the position I was in, and this is what I did, what should I have done? Like, this felt like a really important point in the game, and I made a mistake. But you just like remember, because you're remembering kind of in chunks of what the board was laid out like, not like the individual pieces. It's more like, oh, well, these pieces were pressuring this part of the board, and these pieces were pressuring this part of the board. You like this, have this higher level view,
Mm-hmm.
and like a lot of the you might not even set up all the pieces on the board. You might be like, these are the critical pieces for what the decision I had to make, and sort of Spelunky gets to that too, I think, where it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to jump down from this to this. Like, I know, like, okay, well, there's a bat, so that means, and I can't just hit the whip as I'm falling, so that I hit it, because it's not on the edge. So I know I'm going to get down there, but it's going to be coming at me. And I know I've got this long, before, after I've dropped, before, like, there's like that level of like, but you don't even think of it that way, like in those number of steps. It's just like, oh, clocked bat, fall distance, whatever. And it's like, you just know because you've seen it, dozens and dozens of times.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, I think chess is a great analogy for yeah. I mean, and I'm not a good chess player, but I did play quite a bit in the old days. I was in chess club. Never became good, but I get the concept. Yeah, and it is on a whole nother level of that because of the real time nature of it too. But there's I think we talked about last time, but I've had a couple runs that felt like I was kind of um zoned out or like in a fugue, like
In
there,
flow.
yeah, it was in flow basically, and sort of like, okay, like I'm seeing, one of the important parts about how he designed the game is are things like, color is challenging, but using color is a really easy example. Bats have a certain color. Each enemy has a pretty iconic look to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even out of the corner of your eye, you can start making these sort of flow state decisions and try to react. I've very rarely been in flow with this game, but I've had a couple, say a couple minutes at a time of it occasionally where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm in the groove right now. And then of course something happens and I die. But
right.
but that's a very special thing to do with a procedural game like this,
Yeah.
I would say. And the rule
I
sets.
definitely have games where I'm like, oh man, I was just in it for the last several
Right.
levels, right? And I'll just be like, man, and then something dumb will kill me because I'll be like, I'll pat myself on the back and now I'm dead. Because that's how it goes with Spelunky.
Can't let your guard down
till it's over. You've got like just let yourself be in the flow state. Don't pull yourself out. What are you doing?
Don't think about it.
There are times where you'll be like, oh man, that was really cool. Like I normally wouldn't be able to do that. I mean, I have noticed lately as I've been playing is that I will drop down onto a tiki trap, like not on top of it, but on the edge, so that like the spikes are going to hit me if I don't jump right back up. And now it's just like a reflex. I just do it automatically. I hardly think of it. That's like new, like in the last couple of months, like that. I never used to just do that, automatically. And now I just do it. I don't even think about it. If I thought about it, I'd probably die. If I thought, I should jump up from that. Too late.
Yeah, right. It's got to be this muscle memory.
It's got to be kind of instinctual and immediate. So, yeah, the things that kill me now are, I mean, I did see one. I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but I was in the black market. There's something you don't know about. And the shopkeepers. There's something you don't know about. We're pissed. And I had thrown a sticky bomb on a wall just to open up some space so that I had carved out some space so that the keepers would drop to the next level, and the next sort of vertical level inside the level, and I was far enough away I wasn't going to get hurt by the bomb. But what happened was it jumped up. The shopkeeper was near enough to me to want to fire. The bomb destroyed the wall, and the shotgun blast went right through where the wall had been and shot me right off the ladder that I was standing on. And I might have seen that before, but I certainly haven't seen it recently. And I was just like, that's amazing. And I was looking at it, I was like, and I could have been in a better spot. I was just lazy. Right. If I just climbed a little bit further up that ladder, that wouldn't have happened. And it's just like, it's just, there's these constantly humbling like that of like, oh yeah, that I did that to myself. I mean, sure, I had some bad luck there, but like every part of that was foreseeable. Like it was a thing that I could see could happen. I should have like pulled myself out of the way, so yeah.
Well, it's like, I love which I'm going to use now, the always be carrying rule, definitely which makes sense to me now, and I'm kind of chipping away at that, and then I'll use that as a segue to the opportunities thing. But there's, I assume, like always look down as well, that there's sort of a series of, I don't know, best practices or like defensive maneuvers that you kind of want to, because to your point, like you can also set a rule for yourself of always put yourself in a position of protection in case something happens that you didn't see or whatever, right? To your point about like where to stand on that ladder maybe, but those sorts of things you learn over time. It's really interesting.
Like running past where a spider is, or just like stepping under it and back to have it drop so you can just hit it right away, so that you don't have to worry about it, behind you or in front of you or whatever. There's a lot of little things like that. Also like ignoring enemies that are no threat. Like if they're not ever going to be a threat, don't worry about them. Just if it's I have to jump on a snake or whip a snake to get a little 500 gold bar when I've already got 20,000 gold bars, or probably not a snake, probably something a little more dangerous like a scorpion or something like that. Like, do I really care enough about that one bar to put myself into like, it's probably not worth it to me. It depends, right? I mean, again, there are those decisions where you are using your sort of, you're not using your flow brain. You're using your analytical brain of like, do I really need that? And if you're always greedy, that can be a mistake too. Like I've definitely done things. There's been a lot of games where I've died where I'm like, I didn't really need that.
No.
And I just did it, because I was like, wouldn't it be great if I, especially later on, it's like, well, I didn't really need to get a new shotgun. I could, because, oh, hello, it's the dog.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Everybody, not the best dog.
It's just new noises. Yeah. So, I mean, that's another one is like, make sure you need that thing that you're going to use resources on or, whatever, especially early on. It's like, well, don't use a bomb. If you have 4 health already, don't use a bomb to get a damsel or, one of the various damsel types. You don't really need it, especially the better you are, right? I don't really need that. 4 is plenty of health. But if you're down to 1 health, and you're, down in the jungle or something, it's like, well, maybe you do at this point. You have more bombs, probably, whatever. Maybe now you do want to go and do that just to have that extra point of buffer, and so you're always, you are making those decisions depending on your actual circumstances as well. So, but don't be greedy is a good one to keep in mind. I mean, early when I started playing this game, it was like, well, I must always want to rescue the damsel, or I must always want to do X, Y, or Z. So, and that turns out not to be true. The crates are higher value, I think, than damsels are.
Yeah, you mentioned that last time, and I hadn't really even paid much attention to crates before, and until you mentioned that they're such high priority for you, I started going after them, and it definitely makes a difference. Yeah. I've been happy.
You'll end up with more resources. You'll probably end up with a parachute often, which is helpful or sometimes helpful. Not often, but sometimes helpful. But yeah, you'll get bombs or or ropes. A lot, especially in the mine. So it's like, oh well, those are. There. It's often the case that you get to the end of the game, you're like, thank God I picked up those 3 additional ropes, way back in the mines, because you end up needing a lot of ropes for the final boss, typically. So, there's other places where they're useful, but that's a case where it's like, oh, it's really good to have ropes towards the end of the game.
You can't put I've been trying to figure this out. You can't put a rope out in empty space down, right? You can only put them up from where you're standing. Is that true?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, because like if it's too far of a drop down,
yeah, you can't really rope down unless there's a support above, right? It'll stop at a support. So,
but you can't even get it out there, right?
Yeah, you can't throw it. It only goes from where you are. But you can, you're like, so you can jump out, throw the rope, put the rope up while you're over on the next block over, under the next block over, and then turn back. You can air steer.
Yeah.
So you're like, you fall and grab the ledge that you're on, but you could put a rope basically in the space next to you when you do that.
Yeah, I was afraid you were going to say that. Yeah,
it's possible.
That's possible.
It's not often useful. I mean, sometimes, but yeah, it's not a common thing you need to do. It's useful to be able to do if you.
Well, I haven't really. Another knowledge thing is I really don't have a good sense of how far I can drop without taking damage yet.
Oh yeah.
So it's like I don't know. That looks like it's okay.
It's basically on the distance between sort of a floor to a floor. So in the mines, for example, there's sort of a horizontal line dividing each section. It's pretty consistent distance apart, and I'm pretty sure that is the distance. So if you hang off, it's like one less, right? So if you like hang off the upper one, I think you can drop to the next one. Yeah, you definitely can. So like that's the distance. If you're one higher, then you will take it.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So, yeah. But those are things like I don't even think about. Like I just know the distance now, so I don't even think about it anymore. But I think that's it. Like I'm trying to think.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it's another sort of sense memory kind of thing,
Yeah, it's like
that
how
you do
far
it
will I
anyway.
dodge if I hit the dodge button,
Yeah, yeah. I just haven't learned it yet.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
it's just a
And
long
that
enough
one
distance.
takes a while, because it will go from the point of like I could count it to the point of like I can just see it. Like
Yeah,
and yeah, it takes a little while to get there.
yeah. Well, yeah. Then hitting the sort of like opportunities thing. Like I feel like last episode, you know, one obvious revelation that I was just, not revelation. One obvious topic was, obviously everything's a threat, and you need to kind of think that way. But this time, I got over a tiny hump. I think where, and you mentioned the arrows as that was one of the examples I was going to use, where I'm kind of now in this mode of remembering the game is so systemic and so sandboxy, and there are such consistent rules that yes, everything's a threat, but also everything could be an opportunity as well. And what I mean by that is like it dawned on me at one point. So and this actually is funny because it came from um, comment on the Discord. This isn't a plug for the Discord, but I guess it is a plug for the Discord. Comment in our community Discord for the podcast. Lost Lake was playing, and I found out later it was his first time playing, I guess.
Yeah, he's just
one of his early times, and he died from an explosion that pushed an arrow from an arrow trap, using the physics, pushed it into the air, and the arrow hit him and killed him.
Yep.
And that's like amazing, right?
Classic
Spelunky. And I was like, oh, interesting. That's a thing. I might have died that way and not realized what had happened, but that's a thing. So I was like, oh, interesting. Okay, I'll make note of that. I go about my playing, and die from arrow traps many times, or blah blah blah. And I was like, okay, so that is a physical thing. So then I started experimenting. I whipped the arrow. I was like, oh, the arrow's still there. Arrow traps hit other enemies, right? And they can be killed.
Right.
So I was like, okay, interesting. So in a lot of games, like the arrow would not persist, right? It's like, oh, the arrow hit me. I took damage and it's gone. But it's an object. And so I was like, oh, okay. Well, can I pick the arrow up? Oh, I can pick the arrow up. Oh, interesting. Okay, I'll carry this around for a while. Can I throw the arrow? Oh, I can throw the arrow. Interesting. Can I kill something with it throwing the arrow? Oh, I can. Okay, so it's like this sort of like, can I do this? Can I do this? And the answer has been yes. And it's like, okay, wait a second. So is everything, can I pick up anything? Oh, I pick up a chest and I throw the chest, or I pick up a crate and throw the crate. Maybe there's a reason sometimes I need to throw a crate. I don't know why. You mentioned rocks. Like there's a rock very close to you anytime you start a level. And I was like, oh, there's a rock there. Now it's dawning on me I should pick that rock up.
Yeah.
Because throwing stuff is super valuable.
Yeah. I mean, you can throw it against, spiders on the ceiling or bats up there, they'll go, you kind of learn the arc that it'll take. You can
that's cool.
And throw it and all of that stuff as well.
Yeah.
And the other thing too about the arrow, right, is the arrow is not just the arrow. It either has an arrowhead or it's just the fletching. And I guess
right. I've noticed they break. Yeah.
They break, right? Whenever they do damage to something. I think it's only if they do damage to something, like they don't break on the environment. So you can still like always be carrying the fletching that's left behind. It'll sort of cause things to like do this little jump. It's just a cute little animation. It doesn't really slow them down in any way, but you can throw it at a snake. You'll see it do a little hop when it gets hit by the fletching of the arrows. But you can still use it to activate an arrow trap, which is the important thing.
Yeah. Right. That's amazing. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then, I mean, I just like, because everything, you can pick up pretty much anything. I was like, well, okay, I'd knocked out.
You probably haven't noticed this, but you can pick up the little mice.
Oh no, I did. I picked up a little baby frog.
Yeah, you can pick up those animals too.
Yeah, and but now until you mentioned it, I didn't think about doing anything with it.
You can still use it to activate an arrow trap. It won't get killed either. Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. So see that, but then picking up bodies, like I was like, oh, I can pick up this body. I think it was the boomerang guy.
Yeah.
And then I was, I could throw the body.
Yep.
And then as a sort of like culmination of this topic, which there's plenty we can talk about. I think I have some other examples. One funny one happened between level transitions. I'll mention in a second. That was hilarious, but like I was super bummed about was the Polaroid at the end of the level after you die is still simulating.
Yes, that's true.
And so you see your body as an object if you just watch it for a while. I recommend, by the way, anyone who's playing, when you die, just watch the Polaroid for a while, because in many cases, the sim's still running. Your body's being thrown around.
Yeah, it hits a tiki trap. The tiki trap sends it flying, and it set off another arrow trap, and now you're going the other direction. Yeah.
Enemies are dying still. You know, it's like all.
Yeah, your body's landing on things. Oh, it's so good.
It's really funny, and that choice.
Little thing, yeah.
There's just he just renders that on top and is following your body with that. It's brilliant. But it reinforces, we had a similar revelation to the projections in Outer Wilds the other day on the stream, where on stream people had assumed the projections were canned. Like when you go into, there's this concept where you can look through a projection and like see another place in the world.
Right.
Yeah. A hint of what's there on another planet.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, "Oh, those are projections." And then we realized on screen, somebody who didn't know this was like, "Wait a second, those are in real time."
Yep.
So it's like a projection, but it's just a camera in that location, because that whole world is also simulated, surprisingly so. So, and even the astrological map or astronomical map is simulated. So planets, on that solar system map are real time. So it's wild. Anyway, so the Spelunky, it's just sort of like there's this concept of anywhere you're standing, like we talked about with chess, there's opportunities all around you that you could try to use to your advantage. You know what I mean? And of course, there's always the time pressure, so it's not like you can game plan it out forever, which adds that extra little spice to it of like, you got to keep moving. But it's just it's kind of a revelatory. That was a revelatory moment for me of like, wow, okay, there's a lot more going on here than I realized, and I'm only scratching the surface, right? So, very special. What were you talking? So my example with the picking up. And then also just the concept of using other enemies against other enemies, like throwing somebody into the mouth of a plant,
right?
For instance, right?
Now the plant's like, let me digest this for a while. You can just run on by, or you can pick up and throw the plant or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. So that's, you can see, there's just layers upon layers. But
funny moment. You can sacrifice that plant if you want.
Oh, you mean on the altar? On the
altar, yeah.
Oh, how funny.
You can sacrifice any of the corpses or anything living, right? So if you stun like a caveman or whatever, and they're worth more to Kali if you sacrifice them living rather than dead.
I did it accidentally once. I'm not even sure how. But
what did you do it to?
Yeah, see, I don't even remember, because I might have even happened off screen.
Something
it was like a frog, maybe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can. I don't think the little critters will sacrifice, but because they have to.
A big frog, maybe.
Big frog, maybe. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, it could be. But the
wait, do you have to kill it while it's on the altar?
You mean no, you don't. You mean the blue frogs that are in the jungle?
Blue,
yeah, or the orange ones. Although don't.
No, I know the orange ones. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, so you can, if you stun them and put them on the stun creatures or have corpses, you can put them on the altar and they will be sacrificed to Kali. And after a certain amount of points are sacrificed to Kali, you'll get gifts. I'll say.
Okay, that's what I figure. Okay, that's cool. Yeah,
and I found different things are worth different amounts of points. Like a dead one of these is worth this many points, and you don't really need to know the economy, but it's out there in a wiki somewhere if you care. That's like you need to sacrifice 10 points worth of stuff, and a dead body's worth 2, but or whatever. It takes a lot of dead bodies, so that's not really an equation, but you can. I've definitely had levels where I'm like, oh yeah, the ghost is chasing me around. Well, I just want to sacrifice these 8 bodies at this altar, because I know somewhere along there I'm going to get a gift I really want. So
Interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
that's like I feel like that's a whole other level of playing, but
yeah.
I'll work to it.
Yeah, it's not too hard to do, but once you get it, you'll be like, and there's different things you can sacrifice there in addition to the bodies that are also entertaining. So I don't even want to talk about that part, but yeah, there's
Oh,
a
that's
lot of
fun.
depth, a lot of depth there.
Well, I did unlock a character,
Oh right, yeah,
new character, which I was like, what? Why would I ever like this coffin is rattling? Why would
yeah.
I ever open the coffin? There's got to be something bad in there. So I never opened them, and then I think I did it just on a whim once, and this new character came out that you can play as. So that was funny.
Yeah.
No, but my one pickup story that was such a, I think for me at least,
Well,
was a
the other thing about the coffins is kind of I don't typically open them. I used to, but I don't typically open them. They don't appear on the daily, so I don't see them anyway. But if you're playing, I didn't used to open them after a while because that was a space that was kind of safe. It was more safe than other space. So I leave them unopened because if I don't claim that character, then that coffin will show up again. So, and at a certain point, you're out of them and you won't see any more coffins ever again. You'll have all the characters. So I would not claim them just to have more coffins in the mix because it meant more safe spaces in the board. Since I don't play other than the daily anymore, that's kind of immaterial. But it's funny now. I did, because I knew you'd be playing this way where you're just playing the normal adventure mode. I did play like 3 or 4 adventure, games in a row the other day, and I didn't go get that far in any of them, which was why I played more than one. But I ran into a coffin, and I was like, "Oh right, I just installed this on this machine 6 months ago, and I've not played any adventure mode on it, so I haven't unlocked any other characters other than the handful you get when the game is installed." So I was like, "Oh yeah, I should not do these coffins. I should just leave them." Because I don't care about the new characters, but I do like having safer levels, so I'll just leave that there.
That's amazing. That feels like a heart, Zelda heart
It's sort of like that, but
thing, right?
you
In a
don't
way,
really
it's
get
like
any benefit from the characters are all the same, functionally. So
no, but I just mean you made the choice for your
yeah,
own purposes on not engaging with that
yeah,
because you had another reason to do it. You know what I mean? Which is really fascinating.
yeah,
The point is it allows you to that choice. That's what I meant by the Zelda heart. It's like it
right,
gives the player the choice versus like, well, you may not, you may have another reason not to. Versus like, oh, I finished 4 levels. Here's a free character.
right.
Through some progression system. It's like, no, actually, it's a choice. You can open that coffin or not if you want a character. There could be other reasons. Yeah. Now my sort of like partner moment that came with the picking up thing is that I had finally gotten my hands on a boomerang of my own, and I was having great fun with it. Like in the previous level, throwing around, had some good success. The next level was a darkness level.
Oh, sorry.
And so I had this boomerang in my hand and I was staring at that torch and I was like, dang it, I just got my first boomerang, you jerk.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I got to make a choice. And, I chose the torch and put my boomerang down.
I carry things around, because sometimes I'll have a shotgun when I get a darkness level. I'm like, well, I'm going to keep it, or a pickaxe. And I really need to keep that because of something that's coming up. So I'm just going to like move them in tandem. I'll
right.
pick up the light, move to, clear out the next little bit of space, put down the light, or drop it to the next level or something like that so I can see what's down there, which is another good thing to do. And then go back and get the thing that I know I left right by the entrance and, ferry it to the next level. And so it's, you do like, I do run everywhere as well. I don't know. You may not do that yet.
I'm trying to. It's it's a confidence level thing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
That's a sort of just learning the pacing of the game kind of thing that like once you're pretty comfortable. There's times where you don't want to run, but most of the time, if you've been playing a while, you'll be running. So
yeah, that makes sense. I assumed that would be the case.
Yeah.
And I think I did throw the torch down to try to ferry them both, but then I'm sure I died not long after that. So
Yeah.
but it was just a funny moment of like the game that kind of gives, the game gives you
giveth
lemons
and
or
taketh
whatever.
away.
Yeah. You're like, okay, well, that's a thing. Yeah. So I don't know. It's something. It's something else for sure. I don't know.
It is
Just keeps
indeed.
on giving. And I can totally see, I think last episode I asked you like why this game, and especially because like I feel like in both directions, platformer and roguelike, it's not necessarily your favorite thing.
Mhm.
Uh,
The
so I
exception that
was,
proves the rule.
yeah, exactly. I was just always like baffled, not in a negative way, but it's like, huh, interesting. And of course, the daily challenges I think are masterclass in a feature edition for that purpose too. But I see it, because it is technically those things. But one of the things I feel like we try and I love to talk about on this podcast is just like, yes, there are genres, but a lot of the classic games and the games that we play that are interesting are doing something with the genre or unexpectedly, and yes, technically this is a platformer. Yes, it's a rogue, but it is kind of its own thing too. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I know I'm like very, very tip of the iceberg on all this anyway, and who knows how deep I really will get. But I do see. I think I can. I get it. I get at least the basics of
I'll probably quit by the time I'm at 10,000 hours. So
it.
if I live that, can you imagine? I don't. How long would I have to live for that to be? I'm at 1,000+ hours now, but I've been playing for on the PC. I don't know, 8 years, but I've been doing the daily pretty consistently for like 5. So yeah. But I've definitely had
Yeah,
periods
that's
where
a
I'm
good
like,
question. Where are you going to be playing this when you're 80?
well, he probably won't still be doing new seeds at that point. So actually, as long as he stops seeds on a good seed, so that the daily is just one seed forever after a certain point, I could see
So
that
he has to
working.
manually do this? What do you mean?
I'm sure it's an automated process. I don't think he manually does
But
it.
do you think he must have a test cycle he runs, or he doesn't play him himself?
I would suspect that it's like some sort of calculated thing based on the date.
Right,
That's what I would do.
exactly.
I would just use
Yeah,
the date, right?
yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
2025, whatever,
Uh-huh.
07, right? That's a perfectly good seed. And it's going to be
Yeah.
different from 2025, 07, 08. So, um,
Yeah,
depending
there's no
on.
way. I mean, I think that would make it even cooler if it wasn't, if it is just math and he doesn't even look at it.
No, I'm sure he doesn't look. No, he doesn't
Yeah.
have anything to do with it. It just does its thing. But it is
Yeah.
different on each platform. So, like, if you have it on the daily on the PS5, or I guess PS4 technically, will not be the same daily as the PC.
Oh,
So however that
interesting.
is calculated is actually different on different platforms. So
That's weird.
yeah, it is weird. I don't know why. It also updates at uh at the um Greenwich Mean Time.
That
So
makes sense.
I'll sometimes, like, it'll be 8 o'clock at night. I'll be like, oh, I didn't play the daily today. I go, oh, and now I can't. I'm playing
Yeah.
tomorrow's daily, so I can decide to play it or not. But I'm like, oh, I missed it until too late. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, that's a good
Yeah.
place to leave it, I guess, with some randomness. And we have a couple of emails. So let's go ahead and
Mm.
get caught up with those. You have the first one, which refers to our last game, Cave Story.
All right, subject, my cave story from Sasha. Hello, Sasha / Scary Tiger. Hey guys, I played through Cave Story once years ago, but this time I'm coming to it as a solo developer myself, so it's really affecting me differently. Especially because I'm constantly like, oh, how did he do that? I should explain that I'm mostly an artistic kind of person with no experience in game engines. So the tiniest of little things, like making the player sprite hop up onto the teleporter pad by itself, are like mysterious magic to me. Brett, how? He says in brackets.
Yeah.
Yes, I say that. I say that to Brett all the time, every day. It's almost unfair that Mr. Amaya could be so confident in coding whilst also capable of such charming music and art. I agree that game is astounding. He seems like a very gentle and humble man too, the antithesis of his publisher, from what I hear. But let's not get into that. I don't remember how you two are playing the game. I'm playing on a Wii with a silly GoldenEye controller, and with the original graphics coming through on an old CRT for that 2004 feel. Amazing, Sasha. Anyway, I also wanted to share the first time I played this game was back in 2011 during the week following the death of my grandfather. Wow. I guess it was the right sort of game for that time. There's something very calm about Cave Story, full of guns, though it is. And the weird thing is, do you know what Granddad's name was? It was Arthur. Wow.
Yeah.
Um,
He actually in the email inserted a picture. I believe Sasha is a he. Sorry if I'm getting that wrong.
I believe so.
Where it says it has the picture of in the cemetery where the if you
Yep.
go, you can go to the tombstone, and it says here rests the true Mamiga hero Arthur.
Yeah.
Just anyway, you can. I think it basically ends there.
Yeah, best wishes as always, Sasha / Scary Tiger.
Yeah.
I believe. Anyway, I believe we have the gender correct there, but
yeah, I think
correct us if we're wrong.
Yeah, sorry if we did get that wrong, but I think that's correct. As far as how, I mean, it's just following a little curve, so it's not a you have a start point and an end point, and you can ease in and ease out the velocity on that curve if you want it to look really special, and just do that over a little bit of time. So not that big a deal. You just sample the curve at each point based on how much time has passed. So that's how it hops up. So there you go. To answer a question, but yeah. And then the other question is how you're playing. I assume you were playing. I think you said you were playing on your Steam Deck.
Yes, I was. Yeah, there had a little bit of because it doesn't technically support Steam Deck, but so I did do a little bit of finagling. But yeah.
Okay, yeah, fun. And I played on the Switch. I bought it. It was one of the few launch titles, I think, for the Switch on an actual well, it's a memory card, I guess, but not a cart, but on a little memory card. So I actually had to go dig up the memory stick and put that in my Switch, which I guess it displaced Legend of Zelda. So that's the last thing I've been playing about 2 years ago.
Yeah, Zelda's still in mine.
Yeah, it's I'm gonna swap it back out at some point and be like, well, maybe someday. Now that it's been 2 years, speaking of starting over, maybe someday I'll go back. Anyway, let's go to the second one. This is from Luke Terrio. The oft forgotten Aquaria. Oh yes, this is a my bad. So this is a correction email. Hey DGC, a small correction. Spelunky was not Derek Yu's first commercial product. I actually knew this and I had forgotten. That designation belongs to 2007's excellent Aquaria, and I'll tell you why I should have remembered Aquaria after this. A collaboration between Derek Yu and Al Kaloka under the BitBlot moniker. In addition to its wonderful art, music, and gameplay, Aquaria was notable for being at the forefront of the indie wave, picking up the IGF's Samus McNally Grand Prize along the way. Aquaria would go on to feature in the very first Humble Indie bundle alongside World of Goo, Gish, which featured art and design work by Edmund McMullen, I think. Lugaru HD by Wolfire Games, who set up and ran the first Humble Bundle, and Penumbra, an early title by Frictional Games, who would go on to make Amnesia. What an era. Best regards, Luke Terrio. The thing is, maybe I've blocked it out of my mind because one of the many laptops that I've killed in my lifetime was with Aquaria. So I had just gotten this laptop maybe, I don't know, 6 months before, and I took it with me to visit family, and it was like a Dell XPS whatever laptop, Latitude maybe, and so it was this huge hulking thing. I still have it somewhere, of course, because I never throw anything away, and I was like, I can run lots of things on this, but I bet I can run some of these indie games like full screen, no, frame rate unlocked, whatever, just run them full steam. And I tried that with Aquaria and promptly burnt out my video card. Overheated. Wow. Video cards back then, this is quite a while ago, it probably would have been around 2008 or 9. Video cards, especially mobile ones, the mobile equivalents, laptop equivalents, were not really built to deal with overheating. Nowadays they will actually trigger something in the OS, and the computer will just shut down rather than fry your your laptop or whatever. But that didn't exist at the time. It was sort of like in the early days when like surge protectors were really important, because like literally a small spark could crush your board, your CPU's board, and you'd just like fry your motherboard and you'd be done. And it was kind of similar in the relatively early days of 3D cards, where cards could overheat and just fry their internals. And that's what happened to me. So be aware, folks. Don't think, oh, cool, I'll show how cool this laptop is by running something at maximum resolution and at full throttle and all effects turned all the way up, and now it's dead. But so that's a game I never went back to. I've been afraid to.
Yeah, it scared you.
It's a system killer. Aquaria. I could probably safely run it today, but I don't know that I will. So I probably had that Humble Bundle. I think I had all those games, so that might be how I got them.
That really was an era. I mean, mentioning all those games being in the first Humble Bundle definitely does set it in its time. Obviously, Humble Bundles evolved quite a bit since then. But so this is looks like kind of a Metroidvania action adventure kind of thing.
It is underwater. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's cool. It's sort of it's got a little bit of that Ori and the Blind Forest kind of feel, I think, as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In terms of how you actually move in space, because in that game you also kind of float, right? You're not.
Haven't played it yet.
Oh, okay. Thought you might have. Okay, well, anyway, those were sent to devgameclub@gmail.com. We love to have your emails. We also love to get your reviews on occasion. If they are going into some, system that we don't normally find, we use the iTunes ones, then just shoot us a mail. Let us know. We'd love to read them on the air. We also are on the web at devgameclub.com, and my co-host Twitch is at twitch.tv/
Tim Longo Jr. with a JR at the end,
where you are plumbing the many mysteries of Outer Wilds.
Yes, big. If you're interested and haven't watched the VOD for last week's, a lot of progress. Made it to the high energy lab. So for those who have played the game,
cool.
Big
I did
moment.
Make it that far. Yeah, it is a big moment.
Yeah,
some cool stuff.
Very, very cool game. I will be, as biostats predicted, I will be out this week though. So
okay, well, that happens.
I will forget everything I did last time. So we'll see as far as streaming.
Good thing you have that amazing computer that keeps your progress.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they have to relearn it all every time.
Yep. Well, that's cool. All right, and of course, we, as mentioned in the episode, have a community-run Discord. There was a link for that in the show notes. Our intro and outro music was written and performed by Kirk Hamilton, commissioned by friend of the cast Aaron Evers, and our logo, that Discord, our merch store, all by Mark Garcia with help from a few friends. Have fun reflecting that gold is pretty good too this week, and good night.
Good night.